Hey guys, Jason here, Samco Workshop. Today we're going to talk about real true electronic lockers versus brake limited slip differential, or what we would call algorithmically computer controlled brake traction transfer. Any wording they do for it, but basically this is where the computer senses wheel slippage, applies a brake there so that the wheel that lost traction can gain traction. Also very similar is Ford, the way they use torsion lockers that have to spin a little bit and then catch and they lock in automatically, or Chevy and GM's version of the G80 rear locker where it's got to spin 100 RPMs, catch, and then it engages an automatic locker. So a true, or what we would call an E or an air locker, but a true legit locker versus any of these fit into this category. So that's what we want to talk about today and explain the differences. Both are good, okay? And the fact that many vehicles combine the two of them is even better, all right? So there is no right or wrong to this, but let's explain how they work. So when you are in two-wheel drive, okay, basically your back wheel spin. Now let's just talk about when you lose traction, not going down a pavement. I talked about this in my four-wheel drive video, and people were like, oh, that's not true because both wheels are getting, both wheels are getting power when you're on a pavement. I don't care when you're on a pavement. We're talking about when you get stuck off-road or when you get into some mud or you're into snow, any of the slippery kind of conditions. If you are in two-wheel drive, when you start slipping, when this wheel starts to slip, right here, all the power is transferred to the wheel that slips. So in reality, when you are stuck, a two-wheel drive vehicle only has one wheel. Either one that is stuck and spinning is the one that gets the power. It's just the way open differentials work. If you are in four-wheel drive, okay, and that wheel spins free and this wheel spins free, okay, the power is diverted to this wheel and to that wheel, and the two wheels that actually have traction do nothing, and your two wheels that are spinning just sit there and spin and your truck goes nowhere. That is open differentials, okay? Now, when we kick in a locker, let's go to lockers first because they're simple, okay? They're simple, they're effective, and they're powerful. So let's talk about a locker here. And, excuse me, let's look at a locker version of this. So when we talk about lockers, when you have a rear locker, which a lot of vehicles do, F-150 has them. You can get the off-road version of the Rams that have it. You can get all GMs except for the ZR2s are going to come with only a G80, so that's out of the equation. So the only version of a Chevy would be the ZR2 or the AT4X. Otherwise, not even the AT4, but otherwise, none of the Chevy full-size do not offer a rear locker. They have the auto locker, which is also classified, in my opinion, same as a BLSD. But Jeep, now the new Willys, Jeep does come with a rear locker. The Gladiator Willys comes with a rear locker. The Gladiator comes with front and rear lockers. The Mojave comes with a rear locker. So there's again combinations of stuff, but you get in there for all these different vehicles. But if you have true rear locker, okay, what happens is you click that button and now it locks this one and this one together. So both of these work in conjunction with each other. Basically, it's 50-50 split for layman simple purposes. Both wheels now get the power. The axles are locked together. One wheel can't spin more than the other. They both go at the same time, okay? If you have a ZR2 or a Gladiator, something like that, you're going to get true front lockers that are going to do the same thing. You hit a button and it's going to lock these and give you, again, a 50-50 for all practical purposes. 50% power in the front and 50% power in the rear, and now you are what we call a true four-wheel drive vehicle in that stuck situation. All four wheels have equal power to get you out of there. That is because you have a locker here and you have a locker here. It is the best case scenario. Now, when you don't have lockers, okay, or let's just say that you got, well, we should have left this rear one. We'll talk about vehicles like that have both. But before we do, let's talk about the difference between a G80 or a Torsion Ford. Sorry, that noise is annoying. Sorry. Between a Torsion locker or a G80 locker, they're very similar to a BLSD, which in the sense that the wheel has to spin a bunch before it engages, then it locks and sends power to both wheels. Okay, so they are lockers, but it requires a lot of wheel spin before they actually lock up. Ford's Torsen ones, like they have on their Tremor F-150s and stuff, requires a lot less than like a G80, which has to hit 100 RPMs before it'll launch the vehicle forward because of that lockup. Okay, it's a mechanical device. Nice thing is it's mechanical. It's always there. It doesn't fail. Same with the Torsens. They're always there. They don't fail. E-lockers can go out. You can have problems with sensors. So there's pros and cons to everything. But there's a downside to having one of these lockers here. So for example, if we take sand, okay, sand or snow or anything like that, and you have a wheel that is starting to sink in a little bit on here on your vehicle, okay? Here's your truck, right here, bed of your truck. I'm quite the artist, but there's your vehicle. And if this wheel has to spin 100 RPMs, it's going to dig down before the locker can engage and then lurch it forward, but you've already dug yourself into a hole. So if you're already stuck, you're already in a hole anyway, and then you sit there and you got to get it to get out of there. If you do that spin, you're sinking more before the locker actually kicks in. Where if you have a true, real, actual locker, you can just hit that throttle real slow, not dig any more hole, and then ride right out of it. So there's an advantage to that. Okay, so it's a nice thing with a rear lock or real actual instantaneous locked up locker versus these travel auto lockers like Torsen and G80 where you got to get that wheel spin. But they are still great. They still work good. But there are instances where it can be an issue and you will sink in. Now, so that's why we put the Torsen and a G80 in the same category as a brake lock limited slip, a brake limited slip differential, because those are going to do the same thing. So how that works, if you show you the difference, let's take like a Toyota Tacoma, which has a rear locker and it has BLSD in the front, but a rear locker in the back. When you lock this, you are 50-50, okay, between these two, like this. You are set. They are locked together, spinning together all the time. Then what happens, let's say that this wheel starts to spin, then what Toyota does is they will, this wheel spinning, this wheel sitting there dead, this one spinning, but this, remember this had all the power because it's spinning and it's an open differential. Toyota will come in here and what they will do is they will apply the brake to this wheel, sending some of the power over to this wheel and letting that one now have traction over here to go forward. So it senses wheel slippage, applies the brake, and sends the power to the other wheel that has the traction to help you out. So it's like a locker, but it's also more like a Torsen or a G80 in the sense that it's going to work, but you can still dig yourself into holes before it actually activates and you get out of there. So it's great in a lot of things, but it's kind of trickier. It's not quite as good as an actual locker when you're in mud, when you're in sand, when you're in snow. A lot of people are like, well, mud's just slick and you're not going to dig down in mud. No, you're not going to dig down in mud, but also if I got to keep caking my tires full of mud and now they become slicks because I had to spin them so much to get the locker or the BLSD to kick in, I now have no traction whatsoever. Where if I could have just hit the engage the locker and creeped my way out of there, I might have done better. So, and again, sand, mud, snow, even rock climbing, which is real technical with that, is if I have both lockers locked and engaged, or a locker engaged, I have true all-time slow-moving locked together rear wheels. If I don't, and I have to rely on BLSD or a auto locker, if I start to slip, this wheel's got to slip a lot, and it catches and it lurches you forward, and you slam on the brakes real quick, and it's kind of one of these jerky, kind of touchy-feely kind of things. Does it work? Yes. This system is great. These systems are great. This is much better. Okay? They just are. There's no denying. They are much better. Now, there is a flip side to that. If your vehicle is not equipped, especially in the front end, usually the rear end's not too bad, but if you are putting lockers in the front of a vehicle where those wheels are moving, turning, and going, and you have all that weight from the motor on it, this axle's better be strong enough to be able to handle that. There's a reason that Jeep, Wranglers, and Gladiators only put a front locker on the Rubicon models. It is the only one, okay, Rubicon. That is the only version it has it. Why? Because it has a Dana 40 series axle in the front where all other ones have 30 series in the front. 30s what they call the dirty 30 will not handle lockers very well up front and cannot do that. But it can handle brake lock limited slip differential, which they have, because the transfer is more modest or more mild and not a true lock. So the axles and stuff can take it. Where on the Rubicon, since you have an actual dedicated 50-50 locker, they go to a heavier axle on the front to be able to handle that. So now with the Chevy ZR2, we don't know. I don't know how beefed up that front end is and how well that'll handle. The axles will handle you hopping and skipping and spinning those front wheels. I don't know how tough that front end is on there. I love having the actual lockers, but it is something to keep in mind that these BLSD systems or the Torsen or the G80, well, not the G80 or the Torsen actually, they work good, but they are still pretty abrupt when they kick in. They're going to be more abrupt. But brake lock system differentials, algorithmically controlled, is going to be more gentle on your vehicle with that transfer, where if you're driving like you don't know how to drive and you're driving hard and like you stole it and you're spinning wheels all the time, especially in the front, if you got lockers, you're more likely to do some damage if you don't know what you're doing, where these are going to they're more idiot proof on that kind of stuff and you're not going to hurt anything. So that's your real differences between actual lockers and brake lock or brake simulated limited slip differentials that is going to do that transfer for you. So both of them are fantastic systems. Many vehicles have a combination of both. The most common, like you see it, you can get in a Ranger, you can get it, like I said, in a F-150, you can get it in a Ram 1500, you can get it in Jeeps, you can get it in Colorados, you can get it in a lot of stuff. Is going to be that combination of a true rear locker. Can't get it in Colorado actually, but you get the true rear locker and a BLSD in the front. On the Tacomas, on the Tundras, okay, on the Frontier. Okay, most vehicles are that kind of a combination. It's going to be a rear locking rear, actual locker in the rear, and BLSD in the front. And a lot of cars have that system as well too, or it's BLSD on both ends, and they work fantastic, such as like the Bronco Sport that is out there is going to fit this category, whereas the full-size Bronco, you can get it with just a rear locker and BLSD in the front, or you can get it with a true locker in both front and rear. Again, we don't actually know how strong that front end is to handle a true locker on a actual Bronco. I'm not sure what they've done to beef that up to be able to handle that thing spinning 35s or 35s or 37-inch tires on ruts and stuff like that. I don't know if the front end will handle that. But things to take into consideration. This is your difference between the two of them. Both of them are fantastic. Both of them have their purposes. Both of them work great. Me, if I get the choice, I want a locker on both. Okay, I want a front and a rear locker. I have that on my Rubicon. I would have had it on the ZR2 that I had on order. It's part of the reason I went with a ZR2 over a Trail Boss. But if you can't have that, having a rear locker and then BLSD in the front is your next best option, and that's a fantastic one. So hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on how it works, and thanks for watching.